Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
It's a pleasure to have you joining us for our Friday evening services, and it's meaningful to me to be here in the sanctuary and to look out, seeing photographs of our shul members on these seats. Over a year ago, I asked you to send in pictures, and many of you did so, and some have not yet brought in pictures. If you have a chance, bring by a photograph, print it out from your home computer, or just a photograph. No digital files, please, because we're not set up to print out many or any color pictures at that in any way. But your presence is felt here and enhanced by seeing you in front of me, and in this case, by having free to light candles. And if you're so inclined to participate in a prayer in Hebrew or English, or to light candles, you will be incorporating yourself into our community, which goes out into the cyber world far beyond Ahavas Chesed. We begin with Shalom Aleichem. If you have the Siddur, it's on page number 5. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShoret, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei HaMlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Balachem l'shalom, malachei ha-shalom, malachei elyon, mi melech, malachei hamlochim, hakadosh baruch hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, malachei ha-shalom, malachei elyon, mi melech malachei hamlochim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzeitchem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon, mi melech malachei hamlochim hakadosh baruch hu. Ordinarily, we begin right after Shalom Aleichem, which is a song, a poem greeting angels, to sing L'chuna Ranana, which is the first psalm in Kabbalat Shabbat. That's the preliminary service. But tonight, I'm just pausing for a moment, and L'chuna Ranana will be with us in just a 2 or 3 minute span. But for now, I ask you to bear with me, because this is the Shabbat which not only stands between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is a doorway in our minds to usher us from the celebration of life, which is Rosh Hashanah, into reflection and pausing and becoming one atonement of Yom Kippur. It's also the Shabbat that corresponds with September 11th, tonight and tomorrow. And I feel the need this evening to slightly modulate the evening service, to reflect only one, if we can, one little bit of the enormity of our shared national loss 20 years ago and over these past 2 decades. So I've incorporated a few different melodies this evening, which are of a slightly different tone than customary. And the first is a piece from Craig Taubman called Birkat HaGomel. And before Gadiel plays it, let me explain what Gomel is. If you're familiar with the tradition of coming to Shul on Shabbos morning and having an Aliyah, on the occasion of recovering from an illness, or on the occasion of completing a long journey, a person, when called up to the bima, says gomel. And gomel means the appreciation of safety being brought forth. And nearly 3,000 people were taken from us as a nation, as a world for that matter, with such cruelty on September 11th. So how do we as Jews respond? And that's why I offer this bracha, which is a way of struggling with what it means to be walking the edge between safety and vulnerability, between danger and reassurance. And perhaps that's what Birkat HaGomel is all about. And a modern take, courtesy Craig Talman and his creativity on Birkat HaGomel, a little bit of Hebrew, and then near the end of the song prayer, a little bit of English, trying to walk forward for the many of us who survived, but we haven't fully survived September 11th, Birkat HaGomel.
Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shegmalanu kol tov Amen Selah Selah Mishegmalchem kol tov Selah, Selah, Hu yigmalchem kol tov. Malchem kol tov Selah Selah Hu yigmalchem kol tov You carry me forward, fill me with courage, sheltered me through the storm.
L'chu Neranena, page 11. L'chu Neranena l'Adonai, Nari'a letzur Yishenu, Nikadma fana b'todah, Bizmirot Nari'a lo, Nikadma fanav b'todah, Bizmirot Nari'a lo, Ki el gadol Adonai umelech gadol al kol Elohim asher beyado machkarei haaretz v'toafot harim lo asher beyado machkarei haaretz v'toafot harim lo. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai, who formed us. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted like the people at Merivah, like the time at Massah in the desert, when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are a people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my ways. So in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. Merivah is a Hebrew word. It comes from the word riv, which means to argue. Massah is a Hebrew word. It comes from nasa or nisa, which means to test, to try. What do these two words have in common? The people who try God's patience are those who are hard-hearted and hostile and bring argument and contention into the world. And that's, of course, cascading throughout our minds this evening as we remember September 11th. Those who are bringing hostility into the world, they're the ones who bring Massah and Merivah, contention and hostility. And this is what God never tolerates. On page 16, the English passage. Worshippers of idols, be shamed for praising false gods. All that is deemed supreme, bow before God and God alone. Worshippers of idols, be shamed for praising false gods, such as extremism and hostility and violence. That is idol worship. Zion hears of this, and Zion rejoices. The cities of Judah exult as you, Adonai, pass judgment and assert the principle of justice and righteousness throughout the entire world. You, Adonai, are above all that is earthly, exalted over all that is worshipped as divine. Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinful. That is our hope. That is our need, that we teach the message. And in this experience of remembering September 11th, so much is called into question and so much is left in wonderment and pain and sorrow. And we declare, light is sown for the righteous and joy for the upright. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name. The holy name, Shem Adonai, sometimes mentioned in Hebrew, B'Shem Hashem. And we're bringing now a song, a prayer from Nativ. It's that gap year program of which I've spoken quite a number of times over the past 20 years. And this is a prayer calling forth for God to place the angels of light, healing, power, and awe, wonderment around each one of us. And imagine what it means to be surrounded by an angel representing light, power, healing, and wonderment. Going to sleep that night, at night with that experience. B'Shem Hashem.
Yai nai 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 nai
on page 19 on the English side. Adonai reigns, nations tremble. The one enthroned amidst the Kruvim makes the world quake. Adonai is great in Sion above all nations. They shall acknowledge your name, saying, Great, awe-inspiring, Holy One. A sovereign strength lies in the love of justice, and you forged the paths of truth, judging Jacob righteously and justly. Exalt Adonai, our God. Bow down before God, the Holy One. And again, the theme here in this psalm presages that of Yom Kippur, for justice is at the heart of Yom Kippur, and God judges every individual person, the entire nation of Israel, and the entire universe itself. God's justice is consistent. In fact, that's the sum total of the entire book of the prophet Amos or Amos. 9 chapters of beautiful poetry in the Bible. The goal is that God is consistent in expectations of justice of all. And now, the phrase ani ma'amin means I believe, and I'm struggling. How do we understand belief? And ani ma'amin is a very well-known phrase. Ani ma'amin be'emun Shem elema. I believe with the complete faith, and I'm struggling. And there are many different melodies to ani ma'amin. And tonight, a slightly more contemporary melody to ani ma'amin.
God answer me, pray for me, open me, be with me, walk with me, stand by me, take my hand, holding me, molding me, growing me, you are always knowing me. Ani ma'amin, be'emuna shleima, be'viat ha'mashiach, ani ma'amin. Ani ma'amin, be'emuna shleima, be'viat ha'mashiach, ani ma'amin. Can I feel you, be with you, heal with you, walk with you, talk with you, only you, one with you, sing with you, dance with you, live with you, believe in you. Ani ma'amin, be'emuna shleima, be'viat ha'mashiach, ani ma'amin. Ani ma'amin, be'emuna shleima, be'viat ha'mashiach, ani ma'amin. Ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin. On my mind, in my heart, one by one, part by part, in my body, in my soul, with your spirit I am whole. Ani ma'amin, be'emuna shleima, be'viat ha'mashiach, ani ma'amin. Ani ma'amin, be'emuna shleima, be'viat ha'mashiach, ani ma'amin. Ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin, ani ma'amin.
On page 22, the last 2 stanzas on the English side, prior to the Chadudi. Listen to our pleas, hear our cries, knowing the hidden depths within us. Praise be the name of the one whose glorious sovereignty is forever and ever. Hear our pleas and know the depths within us. We call out in song and prayer because that's all we can do. If we did not, what would we be? On page 23 and 25, pardon me. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, yishmiyanu el hamiyuchad, Adonai echad, u'shmo echad, l'shem ol tif'eret velit hila, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechuven elcha, ki hi mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Yamin usmol tifrotzi, v'et Adonai taritzi, al yad ish ben partzi, v'nismicha v'nagila, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Boi. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'v'tzahala, tochem unei am segula. Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nikabela. Remaining standing, please. The conclusion of the Psalm for Shabbat on page number 28. It's the lower three stanzas of the English, page 28. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age, they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. There's a certainty here for that generation of tzaddikim and yishrei lev, the righteous ones, convinced that bringing care and honor and respect and justice into the daily sphere of reality is perpetual and enduring and will cause us all to grow and flourish. This is the heritage to be brought into the world, not violence, cruelty, racism. Remaining standing, the Borchu, on page 39b. Baruch hu et Adonai amavorach. Baruch Adonai amavorach leolam voed. We are seated, the first bracha on the English side, page 39b. Baruch Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, you completed your work of creation on the seventh day, calling this day from one evening to the next the holy Shabbat, and gave this day of rest in all its holiness to your people Israel. Creator of day and night, ruling light before darkness and darkness from light, making day pass and bringing on the evening, distinguishing day from night, Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. Umariyom umei b'layla, mavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai Tzvaot shmo, el chai v'kayam, tamidim lochalein olam voed. Baruch Adonai, hamariv aravim. Page 40. With timeless love, you have loved your people, the house of Israel. You have taught us Torah and mitzvot, statutes and laws. Therefore, Adonai our God, as we lie down and as we rise up, we shall speak of your laws, rejoicing in the words of your Torah and mitzvot forever and ever. For they are our life and the fullness of our days, and on them we shall meditate day and night. Do not ever withdraw your love from us. Baruch atah Adonai, who loves the people of Israel. V'yavotecha tesir mimenu l'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Page 41. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'aderech u'v'shach b'cha u'v'kumecha u'kishartam la'ot al yodecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'v'sharecha. A moment of silence on page number 42. Adonai Elohechem emet. On page 44. Umalchuto beratzon kiblu alehem Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael l'cha anu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh norati lot osef ele malchut Ra'u vanecha bokeh yam lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar kifada Adonai et Yaakov ugalo miyad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. I see within the Siddur, within the Michamocha and Hashkivenu, which is chanted, recited every single day of the year at nighttime, a sense of movement. Michamocha echoes our crossing past the sea and the Egyptian pursuing army being swallowed up, and then moving a little bit further on into the future towards an uncertain future, hopefully someday settling in the land of Israel, which is representative of safety and peace and home. And then Hashkivenu means we're at home, and we're asking for a peaceful night's slumber and a sense of calm throughout our night. So Michamocha Tashkivenu is that step. And that's why tonight, in a moment, we'll be inserting a melodic piece, and in a moment coming out of that melodic piece with Hashkivenu. This piece is Gam Ki Elech, which is a phrase taken from the 23rd Psalm. Literally means, I am also walking through a valley of darkness. but I won't be afraid because I know I'm not alone. And if you and I are in a dark place and we're all by ourselves, we're likely to be very scared. But if we know that someone is with us, which is the sense of the 23rd Psalm, some of that fear dissipates. Gam ki elach, moving us towards the Hashkivenu. On page 45, Hashkivenu Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us to life, O Sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us. Remove from us enemies, pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings. For you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you, God, are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people of Israel, and over Jerusalem. Ushmor tzeitenu v'oleinu l'chaim u'l'shalom et aviad olam ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol mo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim v'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti la'olam oti la'olam oti li'olam v'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash v'shamro v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam Yitkadal vitkadash shemei rabbo b'amal divrei chatei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael bagala bagala uv'izman kariv v'meru amen. Yehi shemei rabbo mevarach l'olam li'olmei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramah v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'elam mikol brachata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'olma v'yimeru amen. We rise for the Amidah. It's the Amidah for Shabbos, but not only is it Shabbos, it's also the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And therefore we incorporate a few small modifications that are coming out of both the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur prayer service into our Shabbos Amidah. And the main element here is on page 48. Some of us know the melody. Zochreinu lechaim, melech hafetz b'chaim. We're chanting the Amidah silently, but that Zochreinu piece is at the top of page 48. So again, we're on page 47 and 48. Near the bottom of the page is the special Micha Mocha Avorachamim. It's a one-liner. And then also, if you're looking at page 51, we have the famous B'Sefer Chaim Bracha V'Shalom. And in English, may we in the entire house of Israel be inscribed in the book of life. At the top of the page, one small line of 51, and inscribe all the people of your covenant in the book of life. We take hold of the major theme of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is a prayer of our need to assert the safety and well-being of all of Israel, each one in his or her private thoughts and prayers. I'm praying on behalf of everyone, and I'm including you. And you're praying on behalf of everyone, and you're thankfully including me. And that's how we build our silent prayer. A few moments of traditional silent prayer, pages 47 through 52, or private thought and prayer of your own devising. We rise. If you're still davening or meditating, please continue. The service continues with the full Kaddish on page number 54. Yitkara vitkara sheme rabo. Be'alma dirchatim chaychan u'shleimeru. Amen. Yehi sheme rabo mevorach. La'olam u'liol me'olmaya. Yitborach. Yitborach v'yishtabach v'yiprosnet v'darav v'shnash me'kudisha brichu. La'ela la'ela min kol berchata v'shirata. Tishbechata v'nechamata. Damiram v'mavimeru. Amen. תתקבל צלותינו בלתון דחי ישראל קדם אבו הונדי וישמעיה וימרו אמן יהי שלום וימרו אמן עושה שלום ברממה ויעשה שלום עלינו וימרו amen. In a few minutes we'll be making Kiddush, and if you're so inclined to join us in Kiddush, please feel free to have a glass of wine at the ready, wine or grape juice. Today is the Shabbat, which brings the entire world back to the memory of 20 years ago, when unbelievably airplanes were hijacked and turned into projectiles. Aircraft designed to bring family and friends together, normal working people on business trips, and reuniting people in love and in friendship were murdered, and the planes carrying them became weapons. The absolute depravity of such cruel acts still boggles our minds. And I'm confident that all of us old enough to remember the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and on a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, remember where we were when we first learned the news, and even how we felt, and occasionally when we call to mind the intensity of the memories, how we still feel. And that's why we need to pause. And I need to reflect with you. And so I'm going to share a few brief pictures and some thoughts this evening. And Gadiel has been kind enough to bring some pictures along. And so now this first picture, I'm sure is familiar to all of us. It's the site of Ground Zero, a transformed experience. About 7 years ago, Minette and I had the opportunity on a trip up in the Northeast to go to Ground Zero's memorial. And we were there as many, hopefully within our community and of course throughout our land and the world, have visited. And in every sense of the word, I say, going to Ground Zero is a pilgrimage, for we bring forth our hearts and our sorrow. And most often we are silent because there aren't enough words to describe what's going on through all of us. And the next picture that Gadiel's provided, of course, also needs no explanation. The attempt to bring light into an experience of darkness is one that calls out to all of us. We wish to chase away and dispel darkness, darkness of the heart, of the spirit, darkness of wickedness and violence, which emerges from racism and bigotry and prejudice exploded to a fault. And look at all the innocent victims which perished, and all the families who still suffer, and all the friends and neighborhoods who are still in torment as a result of those fires of cruelty. If you happen to have the opportunity to visit Ground Zero, you'll walk through a museum and a memorial, And at one point, you come upon a series of computer terminals, and now, through the advantages of improved technology, even off-site, you can access through your own computer a map that displays memorials of September 11th throughout the world. And I have before us right now the first of a few maps. The first is a map of the United States, and obviously we're familiar with the United States. And every one of these blue dots represents some type of a memorial to September 11th, and you see how many there are throughout the U.S. and also a few in Central and South America. And it's riveting, and you may know that over a span of the ongoing time since September 11th, there are still more memorials being constructed and established. And the picture that you have on your screen comes to you from minutes of my trip 7 years ago. And I recently checked, and this map of US and its attendant memorials still seems to be about the same and therefore current. And you see, as you look at just a little bit of Western Europe, that there are a number of memorials throughout Western Europe as well. And what's striking is that there are 4 memorials in Poland. And at least 2 of these, I haven't checked all 4, but at least 2 of these are civilian memorials, as are quite a number of them in Central Europe, in mainland Europe. And that testifies to the sense of caring, the sense of being violated by the human spirit of our friends, of our neighbors, of those who care for us in Europe. And now we're going to go to the next map, which I call the world map. And you see before us on this world map the vastness of Eastern Europe moving into Asia. And you see that there are almost no indicators of any sense of care or reverence of civilian life taken from us. We have a little bit of an indication in Japan, and that's U.S. naval base in Japan. And not on this map, but below on a different map that I have, you see one small indicator of a memorial in Australia. It's in a small community, and it reflects a hometown memorial in honor, in memory of one Australian from that town who perished in the attacks at the World Trade Center. People grieving all over the world if they have the heart and the conscience to do so. And now we turn to this next map, which grips me. And you see on this map indications of memorials in Israel and Afghanistan. And it's hard to see on this specific map, but in Afghanistan, up until what would have been perhaps a week ago, or perhaps, there are 4 memorials indicated in Afghanistan. 3 of them on what we call Bagram Air Force Base, although who knows what's going on with Bagram the past few weeks. It was overrun. So 3 memorials on Bagram and 1 memorial at the Kabul, Afghanistan airport. We have no way of knowing if those memorials to the depravity and the wickedness which tore human life away from all of us are still extant. And now we turn to Israel. I want you to see the map bearing Israel next to Afghanistan. And Israel has 3 memorials to the World Trade Center and the Pentagon in Shanksville, Pennsylvania attacks. There are 3 memorials in Israel. And as you look at the maps that I've just shared with you, courtesy of Gadiel's placing them here on the service this evening, you recognize that Israel has 3 memorials to September 11th. And what does that say other than the heart of Israel beats with a conscience and a morality and a depth of heart and soul nearly unparalleled in the entire world. You see for yourself the paucity of memorials on much of the face of the globe, but Israel has 3 different memorials to the attacks which affected us. And now we turn first to Jerusalem. This is a map in an area of a forest in a region known as Ramot, not too far from main town of Jerusalem. And you see this evocative memorial, and you see the flag of the United States of America, and it's been furled. And all around this, on a perimeter, which you can't quite see this picture, are plaques. And there are names, the names of the people lost in the attacks on September 11th. And the only memorial in the entire world outside the United States of America that has the names of the victims is found in Jerusalem. In Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, Jerusalem, the holy city. The only memorial which testifies to the humans, the souls snuffed out outside the U.S. is in Yerushalayim, in Ramot, this neighborhood. And also at the base, and again, you can't quite see it in this specific picture, at the base of this memorial is a little bit of the metal which was harvested, retrieved from the pile of the World Trade Center. And now we move to Ashkelon. And many people are unfamiliar with Ashkelon. It's a small, blue-collar, working-class town. It's just a little bit north of Gaza, and to be honest, most people would say there's nothing really outstanding about Ashkelon. It's just a normal little town. Maybe it's 50,000 people, maybe, give or take. Just a little town, that's all. But somebody or someone's took the time and the effort and shared their heart to plant a small grove of palm trees and to establish within, at the base of those palm trees, a small memorial. And it's in Ashkelon, Israel, a town that most people have never even heard of, probably never even visit, because it's not really famous. It's just a little town where people live and go to work and come home. But someone or someone's chose to say, we, people of Israel living in Ashkelon, care enough about the assault on humanity of September 11th that we're going to demonstrate our love of and affiliation with the United States of America. And lastly, we move to Beersheba, the third of 3 memorials to the World Trade Center, Pentagon, and Shanksville attacks in Israel, a tiny country. And you see before you on this graphic in Beersheba, at a roundabout in a certain neighborhood. Of late, the past few years, we in Mobile have become more accustomed to seeing these roundabouts, these traffic circles. But within one of these roundabouts in Beersheba, 150,000 people in the deep south of Israel, is a memorial to the World Trade Center attacks. And you can see these 2 tall metal sculptures, which are frameworks, you might say. They might represent the bones of the building. And lower below these 2 sculptures is a small memorial. That's that little spherical object down below at the base of the 2 twin sculptures. in Beersheba, a city that, again, many people never even heard of, let alone visit. Why would people in Beersheba care about attacks in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, or DC, or New York City? And the answer is because of the heart and the values of Israel, which emerges from our shared sense of Torah. On this Shabbat, as we stand in between Rosh Hashanah, which celebrates reality and beauty of the world, and Yom Kippur, which calls us to reflect and look inward in order to improve as we go outward in life, as we stand simultaneously on the threshold of remembrance of September 11th, take heart out of the messages of Torah and Tzedek, remembrance and the call to justice, which have been embodied within the nation of and the populace of Yisrael, and calls out a message to all humanity to remember and to appreciate life. May you and I gain comfort and solace knowing that, yes, there are pockets across the world of people who care and appreciate and stand with us, and 3 pockets are found in Yisrael. May we be lifted up and supported at this time, and may you all be comforted. And now, if you're so inclined, I ask you to join me in Kiddush. And as I said, the Kiddush is found in the Siddur on page number 55. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagofen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshana b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uv'ratzon inchilanu zikaron l'maseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila l'mikra kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzroyim Kivanu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha b'ahava uv'ratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. You want to do motzi? And if you have a piece of bread and you want to join in for the hamotzi, invite. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Remain standing for the Aleinu on page number 56, please. Oleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol l'teit gdula liotzer breshit shelo asanu kugoyeh haratzot velo samanu k'mishpachot adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu kachol hamonam v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim Lifnei melech malchei hamlochim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noter shamayim v'yosei haaretz u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al u'shchinatu zo v'govhei miromim hu Eloheinu ein od emetz malkeinu efes zulato ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים. בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד, אין עוד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. If you're so inclined and you're reciting the Mourner's Kaddish, you're invited to remain standing at this time. Kaddish will be on page number 58. And we remember at this season of the year, Minnie A. Miller, Leon Harold Mishkin, Julius Bloom, Ann Wiedenbaum, Abraham Miller, Max Greenberg, Louise Goldrich, Nancy Howell, Lottie Voigt, Eileen Sherman, Sidney Goldrich, pardon me, Cassilie Koppel, Laura Lapkin, Soretta Livitz, Rita Miller, Harry Brook, Devora Mary Yablonsky, Esther Novoselsky, Hyman Bronstein, Sylvia Goldberg, Eva Davidoff, Joyce Marcus, Millie Rosenblatt, and we remember our friend Gerald Berger, who just recently died, and we extend condolences to his family. And if you know of someone else whose name you'd like to mention at this time, please feel free to do so. And remembering all those who lost their lives on September 11th. Yitzkadal v'yitzkadash shemei rabbah. Amen. Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zaman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach lo alam ol almei ol mayam. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudasha brichu la'ela ula'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'olma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. And we are grateful that you care enough to join us. It makes a difference that you join in and you say these hallowed words. And you resolve to bring caring and love and expressions of peace and comfort into the world for yourself and for others, for people you know and for people whom you don't know, because you're now a network of Jewish people all over the world saying the exact same words. Pardon my throat. A couple quick announcements. First, David reminded us that we've had a couple of trivia questions come in. David, Gadiel?
Yeah, last week's question, and we're doing this once a week, where we'll put out a topic and you can comment below or use the contact page on the website, and we'll answer the questions if we can. Last week it was about the Yom Kippur traditions. First one from Josh: why do we wear white and not leather?
We wear white because white is symbolic of purity, and that's why we dress the Torahs in white as well. We do not wear objects of leather, specifically shoes. Leather shoes in the ancient days were considered ostentatious, and we were supposed to kind of calm down and bring it down a little bit. And so instead of focusing on dressing up our feet with fancy shoes, we remove that, and that's why you'll see some people wearing sneakers, tennis shoes, any less than ostentatious shoe, especially from Kol Nidre or Yom Kippur all throughout the day. And even nowadays, now we're at home, it would be appropriate to wear a very simple shoe around our home during the day of Yom Kippur.
Second question, Michael asks, what is the significance of the last shofar blast?
It's Kia Gedolah, which is a big one, and it's probably playing off of a few different phrases and themes in different parts of the Bible. The idea being that we're going forward into the future for safety and security and peace.
I just wanted to say one last thing. We have been mailing things out. If you haven't received them, either via email or via actual snail mail, please make sure to contact the shul and make sure that all your address information is updated and phone numbers are information, so we actually get everything we're sending out.
Thank you, Gadi. I appreciate it. One other comment just to share. It is traditional it'll be Wednesday evening before Yom Kippur begins, for parents, and there's no age limit here, for parents to bless their children, which can include adult children or grandchildren or nieces and nephews. And you're familiar with, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the Lord bring his face to shine upon you, may God grant you peace, the Yesimcha, the Yerechacha, the Aaronic blessing. You might be in a situation where you're close to people and you can physically share space and be in the same room if that's available to you, and to take a moment and put your hands on the shoulder or on the head of even adult children. And if you're not able to do that, but you are able to do so on your phone, audio, video, FaceTime, Skype, Zoom. Every year I contact my children, and as you know, they're all adults now, and we set aside 5 minutes just before we get ready for the meal leading into Yom Kippur to bless our kids. And you can say a message. It's a holy time. So I encourage you to take hold of that Yom Kippur ceremony, that ritual in your own life. Reminders, of course, Shabbos davening tomorrow and Havdalah on Saturday night at 7:30, and Sunday at 1 o'clock. We'll be Zooming the visitation at the Shul Cemetery, 1 o'clock. Sunday, 1 o'clock, we'll be Zooming. The information went out on email, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can email me, and I think after Shabbos I'll be able to get back to you and explain what we're talking about. And Monday is Tanakh study, and Tuesday is Adult Hebrew and Spirit. And that's about it for right now. We're going to conclude with a different take on the well-known piece, Hayom. And again, thinking about September 11th, Hayom means today. T'amtzenu means, oh God, make us strong. Tivorchenu, oh God, bless us. T'gadleinu, oh God, strengthen us and lift us up. And I hope that this melody propels you somewhere into an experience of reassurance and even calm on this Erev of September 11th. Craig Taubman.
Hey, die, 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 die. Hey, die, die, die. היי די 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 היום תאמסנו היום תברכנו היום תגדלנו אמן היום תאמסנו היום תברכנו היום תגדלנו אמן היום תדרשנו לטובה היום תכתבנו לחיים טובים היום תשמע שבתנו אמן היום תאמסנו היום תברכנו היום תגדלנו אמן היום תקבל ברחמים וברצון את תפילתנו היום תתמכנו במין צדקך אמן היום תאמסנו היום תברכנו היום תגדלנו אמן היום תאמסנו היום תברכנו היום תגדלנו אמן אמן
Good Shabbos. להתראות.